Good morning, everyone. I'm super excited to be here to tell you a little bit of the work that me and my team have been doing over last year. So please welcome to 22, a year in review for React Native. Initially called this talk 22 because I thought like 2022, I'm going to show you 22 things we did. But actually, we did so much, and I have so little time, so I'm going to show more than 22. And so much content to cover, so let's jump straight into it. But first, mandatory slide about myself. My name is Nicola Corti. I work as an honor engineer in the React Native core team. You can find me online as Corti Nico, basically all over the places. So it will be impossible to talk about 2022 if we will not mention the new architecture. Last year, I was here on this same stage announcing how we were bringing the new architecture to the open source community. And I want to reiterate a couple of things. If today you were to go on the React Native website and go on the new architecture section, you will find a banner on top that says that the new architecture is experimental. And I want to reiterate on how the new architecture is still experimental. Last year, we collected so much feedback from library authors and app users that were trying the new architecture that allowed us to deliver so much improvements over the new architecture experience. Your feedback has been tremendous, and please keep on doing that as we reach stability and we bring this new experience to the whole React Native ecosystem. So whenever you see the experimental banner on top, that means that those things are still related to experimental features and the new architecture and so on. And so to talk about the new architecture, again, last year I was here. I was telling you how at Meta we initially started the new architecture in 2018, and we thought like this is going to be like a 6-month project. Not true. That took us 3 years. And I think we would have been fooled if we would have thought like that 1 year would have been enough to roll out the new architecture to the open source community. That's why like in 2022, we started sort of preparing the ecosystem and explaining those new concepts to the broader community. And yeah, so today I want to focus on this section, like what happened between 2022 and 2023, where we are now, and what's coming next. So let's roll back to the beginning of last year. The first release we released in 22 was 068. In case you missed it, this was quite of a milestone for us because it was the first version of React Native that had the new architecture opt-in. It was the first time the new architecture was easy to use with a one-liner that on Android is basically the new arch-enable property that you can switch from false to true, and on iOS is an environment variable on pod install. Even doing that was quite a lot of work for us because historically the new architecture was there already, I think since 66 or so, but enabling that was so complicated. So adapting the template and doing a lot of work to make it like possible as a one-liner was already a challenge. So this was in March. Now let's go a little bit ahead in the future and 069. So 69 was released in June, and that had another significant change, which was we realigned the React version in React Native to the latest stable of React, which is React 18. And React 18 is bringing like a lot of new things for us user, specifically concurrent React. That, as I explained in the past, and I want to reiterate, those concurrent features run only on the new architecture. So the whole point of the new architecture is like enabling you to run like concurrent React on mobile. Then 69 also had a significant change, which at first it was like controversial, like people didn't really understood it. And so it was called bundled Hermes. So since 69, we ship a version of Hermes together with React Native. And we call it bundled because basically we craft a version of the JavaScript engine that we know works for sure with a given version of React Native. That's why, for example, when you create a new vanilla project, you will have this banner on top that tells you like that the version of Hermes is Hermes for React Native 069. We did this change because at Meta, we have a team, which is the Hermes team, which is fully committed to supporting this engine, both for internal users and also for the open source community. And for us, like focusing on our own engine allows us to essentially yeah, focus all the energy on what we believe is important and make sure that we support user as best as possible. That's why in 0.70, which was released later in the year, we shipped Hermes as default. Hermes as default means that now we believe our engine is stable enough to be turned on by default. Users on 0.70 got this. Also, Hermes as default was enabled in the latest version of Expo. So we saw tremendous adoption of Hermes. Most of the features that were missing have been implemented, and we're still open to sort of hear your feedback on what Hermes is, why Hermes is not working for you. So please reach out and let us know. But Hermes as default brings a lot of improvements across the board. Specifically, on startup time, we did tests with the Mattermost app, which is open source, and we noticed that on Android, the startup time is 51% faster, and on iOS, 63% faster. And you can see it on the official blog post that we published on the website, how just faster the Mattermost app is. We also have improvements on the memory consumption side of things. But it's worth calling out that, especially on iOS, there is an IPA size increase of nearly 4 megabytes. We're doing our best to sort of shelve off as many kilobytes as possible. And so things will improve, but still we believe that Hermes brings a lot of value to your application at runtime. Still with 0.70, we shipped updates on modern languages, which we know folks in the community want to use. And so last year, we took a closer look at this. The first modern language which we invested on that was improved in October was Kotlin. We added full support for Kotlin on the reactnative.dev website. So people that are reading our documentation to write native modules and native components on Android, you will find that every Java snippet now has a Kotlin equivalent. And this was awesome because it was community contributed. We asked the community, hey, please help us improve the website, and we want to have Kotlin and Java side by side. And more to come in the future. If you check main of React Native, you will see that Kotlin is growing. And so there will be announcements and more opportunities in the future on how we are fully invested with Kotlin. We believe that the Android future for React Native is Kotlin first. Still on modern languages, and this allows me to talk about 0.71, which was probably one of the most well-received version of React Native from the last year. And the update here is on TypeScript. On TypeScript, well, now if you create a new vanilla app, you will see that the file is called app.tsx. So we updated the new app template to be fully TypeScript, it's written in TypeScript, effectively. Also, we updated TypeScript types, and now they're not inside definitely type anymore, but they live inside the React Native repo. This is quite of a also significant change because it allows developers to sort of make sure that those types are up to date because they live closer to the code where they belong. Also, the website has been updated to have examples in both TypeScript and vanilla JavaScript. Another major update that we shipped in 71 is web props. So to give you an example about it, if you have a component that wraps an image like this one, and you will set the source in this way, like source, and then you need to specify the URI because source is an object, and so on. This is not really familiar if you're coming from web. From web, you will use src, and you will do something like that. So we've been doing this effort to sort of reconvene the mobile props and the web props. OK. Why this stopped? Nice. Yeah, we added a lot of props which are web first. Specifically, a lot of props on the accessibility side and props for image and text input. The idea behind these props is that those changes are all additive. So those are new props, and we have logic to decide which one of these props should take priority among the previous one. So if you're coming from web, it will generally be more familiar for you to sort of onboard on React Native, and also this allows for better interoperability if you're using a project that ships both on web and on mobile. Another significant change on 71 is Flexbox gap. And I hope Nick from my team is looking at this because he's been spending a lot of time on making yoga better for all of us. So we know that yoga was a little bit left behind by us and team at Meta, but is like integral part of the framework. So we believe that there is like a lot of value to be unleashed from yoga. So that's why like this change was shipped. And if you missed what Flexbox Gap is, let's say that you have like a layout like this one, and you have like 3 boxes that you want to render in this way. And you want to have like uniform margin all over the places of 10 pixels. OK, awesome. How do you do? Well, if you start adding margin on the first item, well, you're going to have a hard time because, yeah, you have this blue box there. But then you will have to handle all the non-uniform margins for all the other items, which is, yeah, really terrible. So on web, on CSS, you will have like gap, row gap, and column gap. And this was, yeah, again, quite hard to do on React Native. And trust me, it is also hard to do on Android, like native Android. So I'm glad that we were able to do that. And as I said, this is possible thanks to our commitment to Yoga. Yoga, again, is our layouting library, and we are investing quite a lot on that. There will be more updates to come also on the Yoga front. So today, you can just use yeah, a gap and basically set an outer margin and just control the gap. There is this red area here in the center, and makes layouting just easier to handle. Now I want to talk about a couple of changes which, as I was talking before, are related to the new architecture. And the first one that is closer to my heart is build speed, because I really love build tools, and I love when they are fast. So if you were to try the new architecture on 0.70 and on 0.71 for Android, you will notice that on 0.70, your build time, well, will be quite slow. Like, I tested it on a 0.70 project on my M1 Max, and that took me 10 minutes, 12 seconds to do a clean build for a React Native project new architecture. As you can imagine, that's not great. Like, new architecture is not going to fly if you have to wait 10 minutes to see your app rendering on phone. That's why for 71, we invested quite some time to move a lot of artifacts on Maven Central, and there's been a lot of work, and now I'm happy to share that a build on Android 71, new architecture on Android, takes 32 seconds, which it's so fast that allows me to run the build on console while I talk about it. And really, like, I'm super excited for this. This brings the new architecture experience on par with the old architecture, and I'm glad that we worked on those like foundational work, because you might wonder, like, okay, I use Expo, I don't use those stuff, like, I don't care, but this is foundational work. Like, Expo sits on top of those APIs, and you folks that are using Expo are also going to benefit from those changes that we did, because those are like the foundation of our framework, and we believe this was important to bring the new architecture to general audience. Still, this brings improvements also on the disk space side of things. So if we were to look on, again, on a project on 0.70, you will see that that will occupy, that was quite fat. So 12 gigabytes, not great. And this problem gets even worse if you have multiple projects all over the places. So on 71, this allowed us to reduce the disk footprint to just over 1 gigabyte. And the cool thing here is that artifacts are also downloaded once per machine. So if you have multiple projects on 0.71, you're going to download the React Native pre-builds only once. And all the projects are going to share that. And this just makes life way, way easier if you're having like a monorepo or multiple applications that you like need to orchestrate. Another change that we also shipped in 71 is the template cleanup. When we rolled out the new architecture in 68, we had to modify the template to expose a lot of APIs that were like not really well perceived. And they were like quite complicated for the people to understand. In 71, we took a lot of time to clean up the template on both Android and on iOS. And this is the diff of how the template looks like between 70 and 71. And you see a lot of red. And I'm removing the experimental banner here because, yes, this is for the new architecture, but this is the template that we create for any app. So even if you're not using the new architecture, you're going to have those files there. And you don't fully understand what those files are about. So much red means way, way cool stuff for all of us. Less code to maintain updates that are easier to do. Specifically, we also removed all the C++ code. So again, this is quite controversial because on one end, the new architecture allows you to write C++ only modules. So you're gonna unleash all the performance of the underlying platform. But at the same time, I don't know how many web engineers want to have C++ code in their project. So we took a more flexible approach. So now we encapsulated away all the C++ code. We still allow you to sort of add C++ modules if you want to, but those files are not added there by default for everyone. So you're going to get a crafted version of them, which is provided by the framework, and you don't need to handle them. You don't need to do any C++ code at all if you don't need to. 71 also brings a lot of updates on our downstream dependencies. And, well, a lot of them. We basically took every tool that we depend on, and we sort of bring it up to industry standard. And I want to spend actually a couple of seconds on these slides because I believe that these really hit the points on what React Native is. I personally feel, I really like this framework, but the pressure that is coming from so many different tools going in different directions is really challenging. And I feel that our role as shepherd of React Native is sort of to shield users from all of those updates that are coming all over the places. So you don't need to know that AGP was updated to 7.4.2 because someone inside Meta took care of it for you. But what you need to know is that we are bringing our framework up to standard. So updating those versions allows you to benefit from all the security updates, all the new features that Google has been pushing, Gradle has been pushing, Apple has been pushing, and so on. So again, it's important to stay up to date with React Native version. Make sure you don't miss that. So other things that happened alongside 071 are more on the community side of things. And I want to call them out because they were crucial to our evolution last year. The first one is the Core Contributor Summit that we had last year in the fall. This was amazing because we managed to touch base with developers that are core contributors to our framework or library maintainers. And we had 5 sessions over there. And from that Core Contributor Summit, we extracted ideas and projects that actually became production, things that landed on main. And this is so unique, really. This so much community intake in React Native hasn't really happened in the past, and I'm super excited to share it. That last year, we saw a significant amount of RFCs coming from outside, which is the best way for you, for everyone, to contribute to the React Native ecosystem. So again, I want to reiterate on how we have this repository called Discussion and Proposals on GitHub, where you can submit your ideas and start an RFC. Specifically, I want to call out this one. This is from Lorenzo at Microsoft, and I'm super excited to share that he came up with this idea of fixing up our React Native monorepo, and this is landed. We understood the value of this RFC. This came from a problem that was happening during the React Native releases, and it was making things harder for us maintainers. And we took it inside, and we started working on it, and we delivered on that. And this allows me to give a little bit of a sneak peek on what's coming on React Native 72. Because I think it would be unfair if I will not give you a sneak peek on what's next, especially given that RC3 got released yesterday, so we are so close to hitting this table. The first change that is happening, and this is a little bit behind the scene, but I still want to call it out, is what I was talking about, the RFC for the monorepo. So if you ever tried to clone the React Native repo, 6 months ago, you would have seen that things are a little bit complicated because we have a package.json at the top level that is both the monorepo and the React Native package you install. So before we publish that, we need to strip away the monorepo, otherwise you will be getting the monorepo once you yarn install. which is not great. So a lot of this work was to move things from the root folder inside packages React Native. We also took a time to rescope a lot of packages. So if you are a library author, or if you depend on some internal packages of React Native, like Cogent or others, you will see that now all the packages are scoped at React Native / name of the package. That allows you to understand if that is a package that is coming from Meta, from the React Native repo, or not. And yeah, like, this work was insane. Like, sadly, Ruslan, the colleague that did this work, is not here because I would love to call him out, but like, it's not just moving files. Getting this stuff landed in a repo where like other companies are working on, like Microsoft Expo, and which is mirrored inside, is a lot of work. And this is a testament to how committed we are to make our ecosystem better and make our space just better for everyone that wants also to contribute to React Native. A couple of other changes which are more like user-facing, which you might like enjoy, are first related to Metro. And here, I don't want to spoil too much because Alex, my other colleague, is going to talk about it afterwards. So yeah, but there are a couple of experimental features. The first one is the package exports. And the second one is the enable symlinks. And well, you're going to have to clap again for Alex afterwards, because this was like issue #1 on Metro and has been like long awaited. This allows you to use like more advanced package managers like PNPM and so on. And we're super excited to release these as unstable for now, so you can try it and give us feedback. And another change that we will be shipping in 0.72, and again, whenever you see those unstable prefix, it means that it's something that we want you to try and let us know if it works for you or not. This change that I'm talking about is the new architecture interoperability layer. So if you were to try the new architecture, specifically the new renderer, you will see that if you have a library that is not migrated to the new architecture, you will see something like that, like a red box that tells you like, hey, this component is not Fabric compatible yet. This is a bit of a bummer because you need all of your libraries to be migrated, and over the last year we engaged with a lot of library authors to let them migrate and have those libraries like reanimated and so on, which are new architecture compatible, but you might still have some libraries which are not. How do we handle this? Specifically if you are in a big organizations and you have like hundreds of components, you can't just migrate all of them before you can try the new architecture. Like, we really want you to try it and to report back. So now I'm excited to announce that you can go inside the CLI and register a component by providing the name of the component with these unstable React legacy component names. And you will be telling the renderer that that component, although it's not migrated to the new architecture, needs to be rendered regardless. And if you restart the app, it will look nice. This is really experimental in the sense that we re-implemented old APIs on top of the new architecture, which is challenging as technical implications, but we believe, like, we've been using this mechanism internally to roll out the new architecture on bigger apps, like the Facebook app, and we believe it's stable enough, but there are still edge cases where this mechanism will not work, especially if you do like advanced UI manipulations or measuring and so on. We have this change both for Android and for iOS. And with this, well, 2022 was a year for us for collecting feedback and hear from you what you thought about the new architecture, hear from the library authors what was working and was not working. And again, let me reiterate on how your feedback was crucial for this. And like, I really hope that you got the vibe on how committed we are on delivering like a more stable experience for React Native. I don't have much to share at this stage, but like, we are here to collect feedback on what the new architecture means for you, if you tried it, if you haven't tried it, and how we can make it like a more stable and sustainable environment for us all. And I want to wrap on this slide, which again, for someone can be overwhelming. But as I said before, that's our role. Like, if you are a React Native developer, you probably dealt with these, like with libraries bumping all over the places, and ANRs, and C++ code, I don't want to see it, and crashes, and packages that are not maintained, and so on. So I feel like that the role of the React Native team in this case is exactly this, like shield you away from these and deliver a stable React Native experience. And with this, I want to thank you very much for listening. Also, final note, as mentioned at the opening, we will be in the expert lounge at 1:30 p.m. We have a lot of people from both the React and the React Native team, the Metro team. So please come over. Let us know if you have any feedback, if you have feature requests. We are here to listen to your feedback. And again, thank you very much for having me.